Welcome to an episode of Big 12 with BMillz. We're here to talk about what happened today, 11/20/2021, in the NCAA football world. The Big 12, we're going to be focusing on pretty standard stuff, but one super big upset on the national scene. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened this week. Starting the Big 12, two big games, Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech, and Oklahoma versus Iowa State. Now, Iowa State, that was the morning game. We saw Iowa State lose to Oklahoma by 28-21. This game came down to the wire. Iowa State scored 14 in that fourth quarter, and they were poised to score 21 driving down the field before they threw a pick. Brock Purdy led this game in passing, but he actually missed a couple drives. His redshirt freshman came in, Decker, threw some balls for them, looked okay, threw a pick, and one touchdown. Another thing to note in this game, another bad quarterback week for OU. Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler didn't really look very good. Caleb Williams finished with, I want to say, 90 yards. Let's pull this up. Box score. Yeah, so Caleb Williams finished 8 for 18, 87 yards, one touchdown, one pick. Pretty mediocre, especially when you look at how he played last week against Baylor. These are the Big 12 second and third best. Some people don't say Baylor was top three. Baylor is a top three defense in the Big 12. Iowa State's probably the second best. You could put OU in there, but I'm going to say OU is 4 right now, although over the past 2 weeks, they've looked better aside from that fourth quarter against Baylor. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't went 4. But Spencer Rattler came in, threw one pass, kind of not really the relief role that we saw for him last week, but he did come in. So Caleb Williams, another mediocre week, and we're going to talk about that once we get to the next segment. But overall, Iowa State had a chance to win this game. They ended up not, and OU stays with a 1 loss, keeps their playoff chances alive, and their Big 12 title hopes alive. Now the other game with major Big 12 ramifications, Oklahoma State had a chance to lock this up after Iowa State lost the tiebreaker, and they did. They shut out Tech, winning 23-0, and because of that, Oklahoma State is locked in to a Big 12 title appearance. It's going to be their first ever appearance in a Big 12 championship game since that was added, and they have a chance to win their first one in exactly 10 years. The last time they won this, 2011, Justin Blackman, Brandon Whedon. If you're an OK State fan like I am, you remember that team, how good they were. Is this team better? Defensively, definitely. Offensively, I mean, they're not. But overall, this might be a team that we go down, say, in history as this is OK State's best team ever, Mike Gundy's best team ever, and they have a real shot to make the playoffs this year. Shutting out a team like Tech, that's pretty crazy. It's not something that people thought we could do, and believe the number is it's been over 4 hours of game time without allowing a passing touchdown for this team, and we've allowed 0 touchdowns in 15 of the last 16 quarters, so that's pretty crazy. Look at the stats here. Another solid rushing game. The committee came out. Jalen Warren, probably his worst game of the season, only 12 carries. Didn't really get going. It looks like he's going to come out, save him a little bit for Bedlam coming up, which we're going to talk about. But overall, Dominic Richardson, another great week for him. He looks like he's going to be poised to take over this backfield following Desmond Jackson, Jalen Warren, and L.D. Brown's departures next year. So is he going to be ready for RB1? I'm not sure. I think he's going to be decent, but I think the year after that he's really going to come into his own. But overall, he's having a great 2-game span, and he's really helping this team offensively. Spencer Sanders, he's looked solid. Really, I think the last 5 games, he's got a 9-to-1 passing ratio, touchdowns, interceptions. Came out, what is that, just barely over 50% completions percentage. Ran 6 times for 48 yards and a touchdown. So he's really coming into his own. We're seeing a guy like Spencer Sanders finally be that type of quarterback that you associate with Oklahoma State. Somebody who can lead an offense, the Mason Rudolph, Brandon Whedon's, maybe even the J.W. Walsh's of the world. So for him to take this next step, That's pretty big time for this program. And I think next year especially, you're going to see him do some great stuff. I think he might be a fringe Heisman contender in the 2022 season. So don't hold me to that, but we'll see what he can do. In the receiving game, Spencer Sanders' weapons. Tay Martin, two bad drops, one in the end zone and one on a crossing route. But overall, 7 receptions for 130 yards. That's nothing to sneeze at. Pretty great game for him. Blaine Green, he's been really quiet to start the season, but this and the TCU game, he's had a handful of great catches and really been a player for this team. He had a really great catch. I think it was for 15 yards on the sideline. It was ruled incomplete at first, and looked back at it, and dude just barely had the tip of his toe in. Great placement there. Really great performance. John Paul Richardson coming into this game, 2 catches for 11 yards, no touchdown. So he really broke out. He's a true freshman out of Missouri, I think, or maybe it's Missouri City in like Texas or something. Either way, dude made a name for himself. Where's number 17? Looks like Dylan Stoner. And he played great. So, going to the defense, which ESPN does not have. Obviously, Malcolm Rodriguez played solid. Colin Oliver did not get a sack, I believe. I'm not sure if it's going to show that anywhere, number of sacks they had. Brock Martin had a forced fumble. Converse got picked on again. They keep these teams, everybody likes to pick on Converse. And for the most part, he does a pretty solid job. Trey Sterling got some more reps in. Jason Taylor is somebody who is just taking a step forward every year. And junior, so next year as a senior, I'm expecting some big things out of him. Looking elsewhere in the Big 12, Baylor beat Kansas State. Tech obviously lost. TCU beats Kansas, and West Virginia beats Texas. For people at home, that's a 6-game losing streak for Texas. 6-game losing streak. Does Sark keep his job? I'm going to say yes, but he's on thin ice. Very, very thin ice. Personally, I think he should keep it. I don't think Texas should have these expectations they have for themselves. Obviously, this is an underperforming season by any program standards, so, it's not like this is what they should expect, but they shouldn't really be setting this championship or bust. They need to let the coaches start building a foundation, but that's not really the point of what we're talking about here. What I do want to talk about when it comes to coaching jobs is, should Lincoln Riley consider LSU? So what I did here, I didn't fill all of these in, but I put some pros and cons up. Obviously, if a team doesn't have a con, that's not to say they're perfect. It's just they're not the point of this video. But I have for you, in my opinion, the top 10 jobs in all of college football. And I have Oklahoma as the number 4 job. Now I got Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson. I have all these guys ahead as my top 3 jobs that any college coach could have as a head coach. And then I got Oregon, Georgia, LSU, Stanford, Washington, and Penn State as the teams after Oklahoma. So LSU, that's the team that Lincoln is linked with, obviously. Do I think there's a chance? Not really. I don't see any reason to take that job. I don't think LSU is in the same ballpark as Oklahoma on a national perspective. Obviously, there's only so many programs that can consistently just recruit everywhere. But what you really change when you go to LSU is you get a short leash. This LSU team that Orgeron had, I think it's 2019, 2018. Either way, it's in the past 3 or 4 years where they had one of the greatest teams in college football history. They win it all, perfect season, and this dude gets fired or he mutually agrees to depart. And that's crazy that could happen. That's not going to happen in Oklahoma. From one, Lincoln Riley's never won it. But he doesn't have to deal with these expectations. He consistently competes really at the same level as LSU, aside from that one season. I think in every other season he's competed better. You get to recruit Texas. You get to recruit nationally like OU. You get to win. Things working against it. I saw a poll recently on Twitter. Big Game Boomer posted it. Would you rather live in Baton Rouge, Norman, Oklahoma? Baton Rouge won. Somebody who's been to both cities. I don't see it. I'd say Norman, Oklahoma. Maybe that's my bias as an Oklahoman. but it's not the worst place, and it's definitely better than living in Louisiana, if you ask me. Um, Recruiting Texas. I mean, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, they're there, they're recruiting it, but Texas and Oklahoma, the ability they have in that state specifically, and if we're talking about college football, you got to talk about Texas. So for me, that can't be overlooked. The proximity, the location, the influence you have over those kids and their coaches, that's big time, and that's why they're number four. So all in all, if I'm Lincoln Riley, I'm not leaving for anything. There's a lot of pro jobs that I wouldn't put over OU. Jacksonville, the Jets, I mean, any of those bottom teams that have consistently been in the bottom for the past 5 years or so, I'd put Oklahoma above all of them. And I don't even know if Lincoln Riley is a guy who wants to go pro. That's not really the focus here. But LSU or Oklahoma, I'm taking Oklahoma any day of the week. Now, I heard this argument a couple days ago. Lincoln Riley can't develop quarterbacks. And it seems like there's sort of a media or a narrative against Lincoln Riley that he brought in these guys. Mayfield, who he didn't bring in, but he transferred over from Tech, played with Stoops, and then became Riley's once he took over. You're talking about Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Both these guys came into the program. All these guys are coming in as seniors, seniors, juniors, upperclassmen, guys who have played the sport for a little bit at the highest level, second highest level. And then after that, we're talking about Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams. Now, Spencer Rattler, he played his year, redshirt freshman. Caleb Williams is a true freshman. Aside from C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, looking back in the past, Johnny Manziel, James Winston, true freshmen really can't be expected to compete at this level. So a guy like Spencer Rattler last season, I mean, that's a great season from a true freshman. Caleb Williams, he's honestly having a great year this year. He gets roughed up by some elite defenses, but he should be expected to. Benching these guys, I mean, there's nothing wrong. Benching Rattler was obviously the right move against Texas, but it really shouldn't be the case. We should be talking about he hasn't had a chance to develop his guys. So that narrative, I just don't see it. A quarterback, that's a 3-year, 2-year commitment, at 2 years at the fewest, sometimes 4 years, And they don't have to start, but they do have to constantly be coached. So they have to be in the system for a little bit. Kyler Murray, he was a backup 3 years, I want to say. 3 years, maybe 2 years. I want to say 3, though. And then at Oklahoma, we're going to go to my native Oklahoma State. We had Taylor Cornelius. Both these guys were in systems. Obviously, Murray started off at A&M, but they stayed in these systems they developed as college players. So quarterbacks don't have to start, but they do need to be around to be expected to just come in and be able to play at a high championship level. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, these guys should be the exceptions, not the rule. Okay, we can't compare everybody. And for what it's worth, a lot of games this season, Caleb Williams looked better than both of those guys. Last year, Spencer Rattler started off slow, but by the end of it, he was one of the best quarterbacks. And he built up these expectations that he could be the Heisman winner, the number one pick in the draft. So you have to stick with these quarterbacks. But I think just waiting one more year for Oklahoma, letting Caleb Williams take his next step, especially when he's a true junior, ready to be draft eligible, this guy is going to be a player, okay? These guys are going to be elite players. And once we see that, I think everyone's going to be able to take a step back and realize, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Lincoln Riley is a top 5 coach in the sport, okay? He is probably a top 2 offensive mind. Maybe he's the best offensive mind. And he's probably, if I could have any coach, mentor, quarterback, it'd be him. So that narrative, that's got to stop. Moving on, we're going to look around the league, see what happened this week, check it all out. Where's that tab? All right. So starting off with the number 1 team, Georgia beats Charleston Southern 56-7. Nothing really to report here. Just another week of domination. Kind of surprised, honestly, that they gave up a touchdown, but they did. As you can see, I didn't watch this game personally. You'd assume the starters came out here, or the play calling just went totally conservative. But there is something we said about Georgia's offense. Consistently, it's not coming out the way you expect it to. Their O line's great. They're running it. I mean, that's crazy. 4 carries, 83 yards. But it's really going to have some problems when they start facing the upper echelon in the playoffs. You know, what are they really going to be able to do? That being said, they're still the best team in the country by a lot. Alabama kind of squeaks out against Arkansas. The game might have been a little closer than the scoreboard shows. Arkansas did kind of come back. They were trailing by 10 going into the half after keeping it close for most of that first half. But Bryce Young, what is this, 559 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think that's the second straight week of 5 touchdowns. Obviously against much different types of competition, but he pulls away. Great play. If you haven't seen it, look at the fake field goal. Kern, the tight end, he kind of just snags it, but it was a great play in there to keep him in the game. And that's what you need when you're playing Alabama. But seeing that Alabama's lost to Tech, they played A&M, and they played a 7-point game against Arkansas. My big takeaway here, Alabama is completely beatable this year. Is Georgia beatable? We don't know. We probably won't know until they play Alabama in the championship game or until we see them in the playoffs. But Alabama is definitively beatable. Any top 25 team, not any top 25 team, but a lot of top 25 teams can get lucky on any given night and beat this really tied team. That being said, they're probably the second most talented team, and as of right now, they absolutely deserve to be in the playoffs. All right, now here's the big one. Number 3 Oregon gets blown out on away at Utah, 38-7. This game went into half 28-0. I believe it was a 78-yard return to put the Utes up that much. They controlled this game start to finish. This is Oregon's worst loss as the top 5 team ever. And really, this is what I've been saying. It's what a lot of people have been saying. Oregon is not the number 3 team in the nation, and they haven't been ever since C.J. Verdell went down. So, it sucks for Oregon because there goes your playoff chances, but it's kind of what we expected. And it's good because a more deserving team can hopefully get it. Another shocker today, Ohio State comes out. They wipe the floor with Michigan State. 56-7. C.J. Stroud, I believe he did most of this in the first half. I think he was 29 for 31 at half. But he had almost 430 yards. I think he had 5 touchdowns. He might have had 6 already. But he came out with a fire. This Ohio State offense is definitely the best offense in the country. I don't think it's on level with Georgia's defense. I think Georgia's defense is a little better than Ohio State's offense, but that would be a great matchup. Although I don't think we're going to see Ohio State as a 3 seed or a 4 seed. I think that's going to be the championship that we see at the end of the playoffs because I see Ohio State getting it as that 2 seed right now. Even with Oregon losing, who is their only loss, I don't think it's going to hurt them anymore, especially after just trouncing the number 7 team in the nation like that. Cincinnati, this is finally their marquee win. They didn't let SMU, one of the best offenses, probably a top 15 offense in the country, score until the fourth quarter. By then, the game was way out of reach. This team, they've kind of struggled for their past few weeks, winning by little ever since that Notre Dame win. But this is a marquee win for them. And I think we're going to see them kind of finally be in that 4 spot. I don't know if this locks them into the playoffs. Actually, it doesn't. This does not lock them into the playoffs. But I think at the end of the rankings this week, maybe I'm being naive, but the committee will have Cincinnati at number 4. Michigan takes care of Maryland. This is kind of what we've seen all season. Michigan is able to take care of these little teams. They dropped 59. And this is why Michigan's offense is the best we've seen for a while. Notre Dame is going to stomp Georgia Tech 55-0, keeping their 10-1 season alive with their only loss in Cincinnati. It's another solid week by them. Here's a top 10 upset for you. Wake Forest loses to Clemson. Clemson has a chance to get to 10 wins this season, in a season that we thought was not good at all. They really just smacked them around. Going into halftime up 17-10, winning 48-27. This is Wake Forest's first time scoring under 30 all season. So to stop a potent offense like that, anytime Clemson plays a bad defense this year, they can score points, and that's pretty much the only case, but still. Baylor, Kansas State, we talked about this one a little earlier. Baylor keeps their championship hopes alive in the Big 12 at least. Playoff is probably out of reach. But Baylor gets to stick around another week, and they will wait on Bedlam to see if they make it or not, assuming they take care of business. Ole Miss versus Vanderbilt. We saw Ole Miss win by only 14 against a weak Vanderbilt team. Maybe not what you'd expect, but it's what happened. Oklahoma, Iowa State. We touched on this one earlier, but there's the score again. I'm probably going to stop looking after this. If you want to see the rest of the top 25, that's pretty much what we got. No more major upsets. UTSA stays undefeated. Go Roadrunners. But moving on, let's look at my top 7 versus what I expect the committee to come out with. My top 8, actually. There's 8 teams right now who I'd say can make the playoffs. And ranking them, I have Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma. And then I'm expecting the committee. I'm expecting them. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong for putting Cincinnati there, but I think that they'll have them there at least at the end of this week on Tuesday. We're going to see Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State at 7. And then I'm thinking that, Oklahoma can still make it, but you got to keep Baylor ahead of them for right now. Probably Ole Miss ahead of them. Who's the other team? That's it. I am jumping Michigan State, Oregon, and what am I missing? What am I missing? Somebody. But I have Oklahoma as right now the number 10 seed by the committee. In my opinion, they should be number 8. But that's how I expect that to end up looking. And looking forward to next week. See what we got. We have some great games, including Bedlam. So mark that on your calendar. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. It's going to be a fun game. This one could probably go either way. But I'm going to go ahead and take the home team here. It's going to be Mississippi State. I think Leach is going to be able to take care of this poor defense for Ole Miss. Not saying he has anything special on his defense, but I think Mississippi State can take this one home. Colorado, Utah. I'm expecting Utah to keep rolling, work on locking up that Pac-12 championship appearance. They might have clinched it this week. I'm not sure. Boise State, San Diego State. San Diego State's going to take this one. Honestly, this has been close. Boise State's a solid team. They played Oklahoma State close, but I don't really see much for them here. Iowa, Nebraska. Should be a fun game. Another defensive game. Nebraska is probably the best 3-8 team in the history of the league, of all college football. Go ahead and give me Nebraska at home. Yeah. Cincinnati, East Carolina. Give me Cincinnati. Missouri, Arkansas. North Carolina, NC State. This is kind of fun, actually. Let's go ahead and take... Yeah, we'll stick with NC State. Alabama, Auburn. Can Alabama lose this against Auburn? I think so. Will they? Absolutely not. Notre Dame versus Stanford. Another close game, another fun game. If you didn't see it, I did have Stanford, I believe. Yeah, I had them as the number 8 job in all of college football. That being said, they're about to get rocked. Notre Dame's going to win this pretty easily. Baylor versus Tech. This game is going to be a sleeper. Tech is not going to win this, but they're going to keep it close. They got a really good run defense, and taking Baylor out, at least from a running perspective, that makes this team hard to win. But I don't think they're going to be able to score as much on that Baylor defense. And Baylor knows that they win this game, then assuming Oklahoma State wins, they will play in the Big 12 championship. So I think Baylor's going to treat this just as well as Oklahoma State and Oklahoma treat Bedlam. And they're going to keep it close, but they're going to win. Wisconsin versus Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota's going to be able to score. I think they stay under 10, probably. And I got Wisconsin winning that one. Oklahoma State. I'm not going to predict this at all. Also, it's crazy. These two games, their tickets are way more than anybody else's. It's crazy. Even this game, that's a rivalry game. That's cheap as you can get. Just saying. Bedlam, man. People are ready for it. But yeah, I'm not saying nothing. Pittsburgh, Syracuse. Let's go Kenny Pickett. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech just got rocked by Notre Dame. 55-0. Is Georgia going to score 70-0? I'm going to go... I don't think Georgia Tech can run it at all on this team. So yeah, let's say Georgia by... I'm going to say Georgia gets stopped a little. Let's go 52-0 Georgia Tech. Oh, Georgia. Ohio State versus Michigan. Looking at this game at Michigan, so that's definitely a big boost for them. Ohio State really just wiped the floor with Michigan State. And Michigan State came back from a lot to beat Michigan. I really want Michigan to win this just because I think that Michigan will lose to whoever they play in the Big 12 championship game, Big 10 championship game. But I really don't see a way Ohio State loses this. I'm going to take Ohio State all day. Wake Forest, Boston College. Yeah, Wake Forest should keep on rolling. They're going to win. Well, not keep on rolling, but they're going to win that game. Houston's going to smack UConn, UTSA. This game might be close. UTSA likes to keep it pretty close, but we'll see them. Oregon's going to come out with something nasty against Oregon State. That game's not going to be close. Penn State, Michigan State. This might be a really good game, sleeper game to watch. This should be fun. And Texas A&M LSU. This might be an upset alert for Texas A&M. But I'll take A&M. BYU, USC. Let's go BYU. Alright, let me check the podcast schedule. Looks like we covered everything. So pretty great first episode if you ask me. Hopefully you agree. We're going to keep looking at the next week and then work on some more content. Hopefully get a group together for a podcast. I'm going to be putting this out about the next 20 minutes. Thank you for watching.